Welcome back to Thing, the podcast with me, Dylan Schreibman. I'm so happy that you're here. So glad that you're joining me for another conversation. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day. Today's topic that we were talking about, the healing process. So much to cover, and I'm so excited to get into this one. Before we begin, I do want to point out the obvious. The background is blurred. I am not in my normal shooting location, but I still wanted to do an episode. So here we go. I kind of like it though. It's like one of those analysts that get virtually put into a show. Like the host sends questions to them. That's how I'm feeling right now. I don't know. It feels feels very free. Should I do this moving forward? We'll think about it. I want to begin by what is healing? And it's a term that's used all over the media, whether that be on the news, in TV shows, in movies, in all of across social media. It's always healing, 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 the healing process, the healing journey. I'm currently going through the healing journey. And I want to sit down and think about what is healing and what is the process of healing and what do you go through when you go through the process that to me is one of the most difficult processes you will ever go through when you're currently in that stage, but I think it's the most necessary process as well. So I decided to look up the definition of what is healing. And according to Google, healing is the process of making or becoming sound or healthy again. It's kind of like for lack of better terms, you becoming whole again. It's about finding out about yourself, what you like, what you no longer like. It's about seeing what serves you and seeing what should stay in the old chapter and doesn't serve you anymore. It's the process to me where we are shedding that old character and stepping into the habits of your new character. So, for an analogy, it's you just ended season two of your life, and before you move on to season three, you have to go through some things and you have to see what serves you and what doesn't serve you and kind of do a data check of what you need to do to move forward. You kind of reached the end of that old character and the end of the old you, and you've outgrown that and you're looking to move into something new. And I think before it's the chapter before you move into that new process. So that old character will leave you broken, it will leave you empty, and the healing process is the thing that's going to get you to that full tank and going to get you whole again. So you're going to go from empty to whole or empty tank to full tank. I think it's also making peace with the past chapter to move forward. I think life is about learning, and I always say life would be so boring if we couldn't learn, if everything was perfect in life, what could we learn? And I think that's what I tell myself being a perfectionist. If life was perfect, we couldn't learn anything. We couldn't level up. It would just be, what's that word? Plateauing. And you wouldn't make any progress or learn any new things or discover new things about yourself without going through the healing process. It's making peace with that old chapter. Maybe you didn't like certain things about the old chapter when it came to dating or when it came to career, and you want to take stock of, okay, the new me wants to do this in my career that I was too afraid to do in the previous chapter because I didn't have the courage. Or the new me wants to reevaluate how I'm dating and notice the patterns that maybe aren't working in my life. And I want to let them go and make peace with them. And then as I move forward in this in-between chapter, I want to learn to incorporate the new habits that I want to incorporate in my dating and that I actually like and actually serve me. It sucks. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The healing process is one of the worst things you will go through in life, but is character building, it's strength. It is necessary. I always say it sucks to go through, but it is always necessary to go through. I think as we get older, I think I talked about this in a previous episode, maybe my launch episode actually. As we get older, I think we identify when we're in that in-between chapter and going through the healing process. I think when we're maybe in our younger 20s or teenage years, we don't notice it as much, or maybe when I was like back in my day again. Maybe, it wasn't as talked about in the media. So when I was that age, so it wasn't something that I felt I could feel in the moment of, okay, I'm in a healing process and I'm shedding that old character and I'm stepping into the new. I feel like now I can identify that. I feel like I can be like, okay, when I left LA, I knew I needed to heal. And that's part of the reason I left Los Angeles temporarily to heal. And I felt that in my spirit of you are about to go through a healing process. You are about to shed that old character and step into the healing process to get to that new character and what you want to do next. I think I had a lot to reevaluate, whether that be my career and what I wanted to do, what served me anymore versus what didn't. Um, Also dating, and I talked about this in last week's episode, identifying patterns for me that weren't really working and serving me anymore in that old chapter, and I knew I needed to change them. I've identified those patterns now, and I'm working on them as I step into this new character. So hopefully, as I step into this new character, I'll be able to date with a bit more vulnerability and be a bit more open to the process going deeper than I was in the past, where I now am left with, I believe, unfinished business. I think looking back, I don't think I'm going through this part of healing now, but you never know. I think looking back a few years ago, I went through a healing process of friendships where I lost a lot of people who I was in regular contact with and didn't speak with anymore. And we kind of went our separate ways. And then I remember meeting new people that became some stuck. I do want to say some stuck through that healing chapter of the old friendships into the new friendships. But then I also made new friendships of with new friends that I am very close to nowadays. And I feel like that's another part of healing. Like I said, I don't think I'm going, maybe identifying, I don't think I'm going through that now. But a few years ago, I did have to shed some old friendships to make room for some new friendships in my life. Kind of sums up the healing process of you're not only identifying what doesn't serve you any longer or what you want to do differently in this new chapter, you're also making room for the new chapter. You always say you have to get rid of the old and dump part of the old and let that old go to make room for the new, whether that be new opportunities, whether that be a new relationship, whether that be new friends, whether that be moving to a new place. You always have to let that old go and move forward into. I think when I left Los Angeles, I identified that I needed to let some things go in my life to make room for the new and to find out what's next across a smorgasbord of areas and make peace with letting those things go. And I do always say, I think I do want to make this clear. I don't think if you're in a healing process, I don't necessarily think you have to let everything go. You have to identify what you need to let go. So, like I said, a couple of years ago, I was in a healing process, which I don't even think I recognized at the time. As I said, I think I recognize it now, but at the time in the moment, I don't think I didn't say to myself, this is a healing process. It just kind of was going through the emotions of it. God will still take you through it, whether you know it or not. I think a few years ago, it was friendships that was my main priority that I need to kind of shift perspective and let some go and keep the ones that I wanted to keep that are still my friends to this day. That's where I'm saying I don't think you have to let necessarily everything go. I think the ones that aren't serving you anymore, you should. And I made room for those new friendships. I think at that time, I believe also I had to let some room in my career grow. And I remember a new opportunity coming in at that moment as well. So I think it was career and friendships, really. I think this one is focused, this healing process that I'm currently going through is focused on old dating habits and old relationship habits that I want to let go, as well as making some room for stuff in my career. Never be afraid to, I guess, welcome in new opportunities. I think that is, I do want to add, I think I also am thinking about where I want to move next. I think that's another thing that I think it's another thing that I'm focusing on in this process of whether I want to move back to Los Angeles or move to a different city. Only time will tell. I think it's really important during a healing process is learning a lot of lessons. And I think I could do a whole another episode on the lessons I've learned during this healing process. I don't want to talk that much, or keep you that long today. I think healing is about learning and it's about stepping into that season three, as I said earlier, or whatever season of your life that it is in. I think the universe or my faith has helped me during this time. And I do want to say, I think, and this is just my opinion, I think based off of my personal experience, I think God will throw you into a healing process, whether you're ready for it or not. I think He knows when it's necessary. I think you can prolong it a little bit by staying complacent and staying in the life that you feel comfortable with. I think you'll still have on your sense that you should take a risk or shed that old, whatever it is on your heart, whatever category or place in life that you're looking to heal and move forward into the next chapter of. I just say that based off of personal experience. I think before this healing process, I knew for a while on my spirit of what I wanted to do and that I kind of need to jump into an in-between chapter and leave the old chapter behind to get to the new chapter. I prolonged it a lot longer than I probably should have, but it was on my heart and it was on my spirit to do it. Now, looking back, I definitely saw the signs of I have these goals and I know I want to do them. And then I kept putting them off and staying a bit comfortable and complacent. And then I was like, I really need to. Then eventually you'll break, whether you like it or not. You will eventually be thrown into that healing process and thrown into that in-between chapter to identify those old lessons and that old you and how you want to shed that character of you and move into that new season that you'll be so glad you did once you got there. I think that leads me to what are the signs you need to heal. I do want to make a disclaimer or a note during this part. I'm just going to speak from my personal experience, as everyone's journey is different. Everyone's old to new chapters or old to in between to new chapters are different, and everyone goes through different trauma and different things that happen in their life. So I don't want to seem like I'm speaking ill of someone's journey or um, but if this does resonate with you and this does relate with you, take what resonates and take what relates to you. There's multiple signs of you need to heal before you heal. I think when you identify them is maybe a little bit different. Maybe some, I think as you get older, I mean, even before this chapter, I probably waited a little too long, but yeah, I think as you get older, you start to realize what a healing process is, and you get more comfortable being in the in-between chapter. It's not easy, it sucks regardless, but I think you can identify it more than when I was younger and I was thrown through the in-between chapter to transform. I think it's all about transformation. You're shedding that old, transforming into the new. So I think it's necessary and it gets you to where you want to be. Like I said, I think there's multiple signs of it. Number one is when you feel like you've outgrown something. So for me, I felt stagnant and I felt unfulfilled. I think that kind of led me to realize, okay, I've outgrown these areas in my life and I kind of need to figure out what is happening here because I don't feel fulfilled. I went months with feeling unfulfilled of this is originally what I wanted to do. This is what I moved to Los Angeles to do. This is what I prayed for at one point in time. And now I feel like I've outgrown that. And I do want to say, sidetrack here. I hope you don't hear the dog barking. Um, if you do, I apologize. I hope the mic is covered. Uh, sidetrack here. I still love Los Angeles as a city. I don't think that necessarily, I think that, I mean, time will tell, but I don't necessarily think that's an old thing of mine. There is a chance I do decide to move back. I'm speaking more of my, I guess, other areas of my life, not location, but I started to feel unfulfilled. And like I was getting up and doing the same things every day, and it just wasn't making me happy. And then I was like, okay, it sucks because I want to be grateful. And I was like, this is what I pray for at one point in time. Like I'm extremely grateful that this was brought to me. But I think I've gone as far with it as I can go. And I think it's time to reevaluate if this is what I want to do anymore. So I think you'll know if you outgrow something, whether it's a relationship, whether it's your career, you'll kind of feel stagnant and unfulfilled like I did. You'll feel like you're ready for something new, but maybe not ready to jump into something new. That's definitely a sign of go for it. Don't wait because I waited way too long. I do want to say, I think you can, I don't know if I said this, but I do want to say, I think you still can be grateful for those experiences because I think you need to go through those experiences to grow. And I think at one point, if you look back, or I can say but you in general, I prayed for that chapter and I prayed to step into that opportunity. And at one point before that opportunity, I probably went through an in-between chapter of, okay, this is my old chapter with that. I went through an in-between chapter and then got that opportunity. And now it's just time to do that over again of, okay, I got this opportunity that I really liked, but I think I'm outgrowing it. I'm grateful for it and I'll always be grateful for it. But I think it's time for me to move into something new. Number two is you'll notice a lot of things aren't serving you anymore. I think that goes with the feeling of being fulfilled versus unfulfilled. I identified, okay, I feel very unfulfilled in this moment. I need to go leave LA for a bit and figure out what it is I want to do. I'll rather do that now. I think I shared a quote on here once of, I would, and I'm paraphrasing as I don't remember, I would rather have short-term ache than stay in something that's comfortable. I want to go the quote again because I don't exactly remember it. But the short-term ache is worth the pain because that will get you to the other side of what you want to do next. I don't think that everything needs to not be serving you anymore for you to jump into a healing chapter or an in-between chapter. I think you can do it like through different increments. I think some healing chapters are bigger than others. Maybe it's just you got broken up with and or your relationship ended in some capacity. You need to focus on that area of your life and healing. But you know, you love your career or you love your friendships and the place that you live. I don't think it has to, sometimes it's all of it. Sometimes it's some of it. I think if you let a lot of it build up like I did, I think that's when it hits you worse and you're kind of thrown into everything. So I think if you can identify maybe it's just one area of your life and let me work on that, I think that's actually a good thing to kind of keep you fulfilled in the other areas, but you can work on that as you and get fulfilled in that area once again. I think number three is like I'm big on energy. So I think number three is an energy thing. I think you feel a need to change or level up. Me, I just felt this need of change. I felt, which will get you to the level up. I felt I had been thinking actually, ooh, I'm sharing a little tea on think here. I actually thought about moving to LA probably a year plus before I did. Again, I don't necessarily know if it was the city's fault. I don't think it was. I think just the other areas in my life. I think I just felt in my heart that I needed a reset. And my family's on the East Coast, which was a big part of it. I remember being in therapy a year plus before I moved out of LA, thinking about moving out of LA and weighing the pros and cons of coming back to Maryland for a little bit versus staying in LA, weighing the pros and cons of seeing my family or moving closer to my family versus flying in to see them once or twice a year. I think weighing the pros and cons of if I move home, can I really step into what I want to do and take a risk for a little bit versus do I stay in a stable income? There was a lot I was weighing over a year. I don't think healing is a fast journey. I think when it happens, it seems like it does like, oh my God, I was kind of thrown into this chaos of I kind of lost everything and I've been isolated and I kind of have to start over with a clean start. But I think it is a natural buildup. Like I said, it was a long time before I actually jumped into this chapter. I just felt that need on my spirit for a long time. And of do I stay here? Do I go? My brother had moved out of LA at that point, so you know, I was like, do I go spend more time with him? As he's my best friend and my rock. I was like, it was a lot to think about for a long time. And then I think I let it build up a little bit too much and it kind of got too real. And I kind of was thrown into it. But I think you'll feel it on your heart. I don't really know how to explain this one, to be honest. I think you feel the need to change. And change is a very scary thing. Let's be blunt here. Change is scary. It's easy to be like, okay, I know what I'm doing each day. I know how my life is going to be when I wake up versus, oh, let's try to change. But I think change is the most powerful thing. I think I'm a person that's always struggled with change growing up in a fear of the unknown, which is why I hate change. But I think it's one thing that you have to get comfortable with. And because it's going to happen regardless in your life, whether you're ready for it or not. So I think the more you learn to become comfortable with it, the better that you can handle it when it comes. If I could offer a word of encouragement, I think the good thing is once you do jump through that change, you will level up and you will have a glow up and it's only temporary. Healing is only temporary. You will feel whole again. You will feel happy again. You will get to that other side of where you want to go. I think what is for you is for you. And your opportunities will not miss you. Number four is trauma. I think this is one I kind of want to be careful with. I don't want to speak too much into this as I'm not a trauma expert. I'm not an expert in any way of this capacity, but I think what I can say from what I've been through personally is this one is the hardest to heal from, and only do it when you're ready. I I've been through some stuff that maybe I'll share another day. I don't think I'm comfortable sharing right now. But out of that experience, I will say only do it when you're ready. It's the most powerful thing out of all the healing processes to get to the other side, or out of all the things you can heal from. It's the most powerful thing to get to the other side, but is the hardest to get to the other side. In one situation for me, attempted to, I thought I was ready to jump in and heal what had happened in that part of my life. I quickly learned it was too real and I was not ready, and I had to wait a little bit. And then months later, I jumped back into it and was able to process it. And now, thank God, I'm to the other side. But that's the most important lesson I've learned is only do it when you are comfortable and when you are ready to talk about it. Number five, I think you start to feel kind of disassociated and you start to lose your sparkle. I'm a person I love to be present. I made it a goal, I think at the beginning of last year, sometime in therapy of anytime I'm in the presence of people, especially people that I love, my friends, I'm going to try to be as present as possible, no matter what I'm going through in my personal life. I did that for a while, and then not quickly, I noticed that I wasn't being as present as I used to be. I was kind of always worried when I was in the presence of people that I loved and people that I loved hanging, my closest friends in Los Angeles, who I would trust with anything. I started to notice that I would disassociate a lot and I would kind of just be worried about what's going on in my own head. Not a selfish thing or like a personal thing, just a lot going on kind of thing where I was trying to be present because I set that as my goal, but I just couldn't feel myself getting past the disassociation. I think when you start to realize you are in your own head a lot and you're kind of taken back from being in the present, being in the moment, that may be a sign that you need to heal. There's something in your life that you need to focus on. I am so sorry for this light. This sun is not it today. I think I want to transfer and talk a little bit about the actual healing process. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. It is really hard. It is, you'll feel alone a lot of the times. You will feel isolated. You will feel scared. You will feel like you don't know what's coming. In a lot of ways, you'll just be very confused. I think as the process goes on, you start to get more clarity. And I think you start to realize, okay, I'm actually, I think, coming in to myself and I'm coming in to that whole person again. And my gas tank is starting to fill up again. I don't have a timeline of when that happened. The beginning of a healing process is the hardest, I think, because that's when you're just jumping into, okay, I feel empty, I feel broken, and I have to jump in and heal. And life has already beat you down, whether that is whatever area of your life that is. In some way, you feel beat down and you feel broken and unfulfilled. And then you're like, oh, I have to step in and realize what old habits can I shed today to make me get to the other side. That's why I think you should take your time with it. I think in the beginning, you should mourn. I think it is a mourning process as well. It's mourning that old character, that season two character of you to step into season three. So I think you should mourn. I think do not skip the mourning. Do not skip the mourning process of, wow, I do feel sad right now. I do feel depressed. I do feel anxious. Sit with it. It is the hardest thing to do, but it's the only way you can get through it. It's the only way you have to feel. If not, it's going to come out in different ways later down the road that you do not want it to. So I recommend you sit with it. Sitting in silence without TV, without your phone, is one of the hardest things to do. Sitting in silence with just your thoughts is one of the hardest things you can do, but it is the thing you have to do in the beginning of a healing process. You have to sit and mourn and be sad. I recommend you cry. Cry a lot. That will get the emotions out of you and allow you to throw yourself into wanting to better yourself. Cry a lot. Cry by yourself. If you're comfortable crying around people, that's okay too. I noticed in my healing process, I cry a lot alone. The bathroom floor is my safe space. I think ever since college, I've always cried on the bathroom floor. I think when you're sharing a room with somebody, obviously you need to find a place of privacy, and that's where it started. So I think to me, I love crying on the bathroom floor. I cried in bed. You just have to cry. I think then you begin to reflect on what lessons you have learned and what you want to change in the next chapter. I think this is where you get to the point after, and I think they can go side by side as well. I don't think everything is so linear. And you may have days you wake up cry, then the next day you feel better and you feel like you're getting somewhere, and then 2 days later you may cry again. It's not a linear process. It's not a B, C process and you'll get through. It's your own personal journey. I think you need to reflect on lessons all across the board of why. I think this is when you dig deep, journaling helps a lot, and say, why was I unfulfilled? Why was I feeling down? Why was I feeling empty and broken? What in my life was making me feel this way? I think that's important to identify. With that, that's when you can identify the lessons of, oh, this is why I was feeling this way. This is what lesson I was meant to learn. I want to change this in the next chapter because this isn't serving me. I know personally, I looked a lot at dating and career during this process. I think obviously I've said that. I think just for example, for me, reflecting on lessons I had learned, I think when it comes to dating, I was like, I don't think dating apps are really serving me anymore. I've tried them, I put myself out there on them, but I think that's one area in my life I just don't think is serving me anymore. So I'm going to take a break and I'm going to get off of that. I think that's just a surface example of something that's not serving you. I think things go a lot deeper, which I've shared of like my patterns, which I shared last week. I saw something one time of ask God why. Ask God what lessons you want, He wants you to learn. Allow Him to present those lessons to you. I think, and then sit down and have an intimate moment with Him and really identify what lessons am I supposed to learn before I move forward in my next chapter, my new me, new season, so I do not make those mistakes again. I think during this healing process, I've got a clear version of this is what I want to do career-wise. I think for the first time in a while, I'm like, okay, I'm actually excited to go after these things. This is what I want to do dating-wise. I think you also realize during the healing process, a lot of things are out of your control. You start to learn. I think you have to realize during the healing process, a lot of things are out of your control as well. So, for example, with dating, I can't control when my soulmate comes into my life. For career, I don't know when my next opportunity is coming. I think you just learn to focus on what you can do. Okay, I want to launch this podcast. I can only focus on what I can do. So I can work hard. I can figure out the purpose of the podcast and why I want to do it. I can stay consistent and do it each week, but I can't control what opportunities come from it. I don't know. I just have to trust that it's going to take me somewhere and it's part of my plan. And I don't know the how I'm going to get there, but I just have to trust God. Journaling helps a lot. I think it helps you process and get things down on paper and helps you reflect and helps you mourn, helps you look forward with your vision. So I do recommend you journal. And then you sit and during the healing process, you're going to be by yourself a lot. You're going to want to be by yourself. You're going to feel the need to be by yourself because you're reinventing yourself. I think God isolates you to reinvent yourself and reflect and focus. I think as you move forward, you start to feel this transformative energy during the end of like the energy for the best. So I think all of a sudden you feel like you're coming together. Okay, I've mourned, I've reflected, I'm going for my goals, and you start to eventually feel that excitement again. And you start to feel that joy come back and like you're almost to full or you're almost whole and that you're going to be okay. It's a feeling I really can't explain, but I think we all know what it feels like and we all know what it is to experience it. Once you go, I think you always figure it out and everything will be okay. So I don't want you to sit here and be like, okay, my healing process has to look like this. First, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry a lot for 2 weeks. And then I'm going to reflect. I'm going to journal. That will take me about 3 weeks. And then I'm going to, at the end of that 3 weeks, I'm going to set a vision for myself. This is what I'm going to do. I'm starting to feel excited again because I've reflected and I've learned the lessons I was to learn. All of a sudden, okay, 2 more weeks, I'm going to feel whole again. It doesn't work like that. Each healing process is different, a different length, different timing, not linear. You're going to be sad one day, happy another day, looking to be excited, but then you're like, oh, this happened again. And you take maybe a step back. It's not linear. I like to call it a God reset and refocus. If you look back at the old you and during that chapter, a lot of the things that you start to get excited about again, or that you want to carry with you to the next chapter, I think you, at one point, you're like, oh, I did think of that in the old chapter. That's the refocus to me of, okay, I've been, these things have been coming all along, but you haven't picked up on them yet, so you're gonna have to break and and then you're gonna refocus of, oh, I was excited about that, or I said I was gonna do that. It's a reset because I think it's a chance to shed that old character and step into that new character and get your purpose clear again and your vision of what you want to do and what you want the new you to look like so you can be your best moving forward. I think you'll get a career vision, you'll get a relationship vision. Like I said, maybe not necessarily when things are going to happen. I think that's always up to God. but what you want to do about those things to put your best foot forward. What you want to do to say, okay, this is what's going to serve me in this next chapter. This is what I want to do. And then I think you also learn to leave the rest up to faith and up to fate. You never know the how, but like how it's going to happen, what timeline it's going to happen, but you find your why. And trust me, you will get there. The after the healing, I think, is the best part because you are excited again. You know your why, and you wake up each day with a new purpose. I think one of the most grateful times of your life is just after a healing process because you made it and you saw yourself go through a tough battle, which during the healing process keeps me going. You saw yourself you become so much stronger because you saw yourself get through those trials and tribulations. I do want to wrap this up, but I do want to say this is a safe space for my LGBTQ plus community and its allies. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now, and our community is under attack, but I love you. I see you. I'm in this fight with you. And this podcast is a safe space for you to come and be yourself. I'll see you next time.